A land in the Four Realms is in chaos due to the arrival of a demon god. The demon god visited the Xiaoyao sect's residence where the sun no longer appeared, and there was only light in the mountain circle there. But the radiance simply vanished as the demon god again cursed it with the power of his hand. The demon god and his followers planned to destroy the sect on Mount Chanze. Meanwhile, the princess of the Hengyang sect was anxiously waiting for her parents to return when she saw the magical light she had to detect danger in her area. She saw that Xiaoyao's territory was in danger. She suspected it was the work of the demon god who had returned. The Hengyang and Xiaoyao sects are the ones that survived the demon god's intrusion, but now they are in danger because the ancient gods have died fighting the demon god, and now only the mortals must save their own country. The demon god's followers managed to find the mirror of the past that they had been looking for, but only people from the holy sect could open the mirror. The demon god made an offer to Master Zhao Yu. If the Xiaoyao sect would open the mirror for him, he would not destroy the Xiaoyao sect. Zhao Yu felt humiliated and thought the demon god was trying to trick him. The two heads of the holy sects tried their best to defeat Si Ying and Jing Mie, who were members of the demon god. The sect leaders fought the two demonesses. They were able to fight to a draw. This made the demon god angry and wanted to kill the leaders of the holy sect. He had already marked his person with a god-slaying crossbow. Just as the demon god was about to take aim at the head of the holy sect, an arrow suddenly fell on the demon god's cheek, and it turned out to be the princess of the Hengyang sect. When they fought, the Xiaoyao sect's heirloom past mirror that was in the demon god's grasp was able to be retrieved. Then she took over the mirror, at which time the demon god was furious and took the heaven-splitting demon sword that was on his throne. He threatened the princess of Hengyang to return it immediately before he killed all the followers of the holy sect and its gods. He intended to annihilate them all without leaving a single one of them in the world. He managed to control the princess's body by strangling her. Just as she felt she was about to die, a light suddenly shone very brightly. The demon god released his grip because of the light, and the liquid that came out of Li Susu's lips fell right on top of the mirror of the past. Suddenly, the mirror gave off a very bright light. A moment after, she was in a very strange place. She heard a voice calling her, and the voice said she was the one destined to be able to open the past mirror. The voice said, the reason the demon god wanted to control the mirror was because he wanted to change his destiny. 500 years ago, he was an ordinary human, but he was very unfortunate. He was always bullied by the people around him. He was a person who came from Sheng's work and was born from a demon fetus. This made the demonic power in his body continue to accumulate, and his grudge made him a demon. To stop the evil of the demon god, she has an important role in it. When she returns, the demon deity wants to reclaim the mirror, but Gongye tries to protect her, and eventually he is impaled on the demon sword. Then when she returned to Earth, she asked the sect leader to allow her to go back in time to kill the genie chain. Her father allows her to go, but he gives her the direction that when she kills the genie chain, she must destroy the bones of the genie inside her body. When she was about to leave for the past, the sect leader and sect followers were tasked with guarding Mingwu Hall. When the demon god came, he immediately attacked Susu's father. She, who was already floating, could not save her father. The demon god brought out the god-slaying crossbow again to annihilate them and reclaim the mirror of the past. She became very angry when she saw her family killed by the Tantajin. She vowed to annihilate it and save the lives of the 4 realms and 3 realms. When she had entered the past, she fell in the wild and was unconscious. When she opened her eyes, there was a girl named Chun Tao who was her personal assistant trying to resuscitate her. She was very confused because it turned out that she was the second daughter of General Ye and she was named Shi Wu. Susu pretended to be Shi Wu and argued that she had lost her memory, which Chun Tao tolerated since they were trying to evade robbers at the time. That day, they actually had a ceremony at Chisho Temple, but for some reason, Shi Wu took her to the forest just to get some fresh air. When they wanted to return to the temple, the robbers saw them and tried to harass and kill them. She thought she still had the power of the gods and she tried to attack them, but when she tried to unleash her power, she turned into an ordinary girl, and even Chong Yu's harp turned into an ordinary jade. Unable to protect herself and her assistant, the robbers pounced on them and were already preparing to kill them with their swords. Thankfully, a prince suddenly flew in and tried to save her. He fought off all the robbers and made them run to the sea. When Susu saw the prince, she saw the same light on his forehead and thought it was her first brother, Gong Ye. But he was a different person. He was her future brother-in-law, and he hated her because she had liked him. The robbers were actually Siwu's men to lure Xiaolin over. When they got home, Susu tried to ask Chun Tao if he knew Tantai Jin because he probably lived in the Sheng Palace too. Chun Tao is very surprised by the question. Since he is Siwu's husband, she is also very surprised. Susu ventured closer to Tanta Jin. She tried to observe that he looked like a very weak person. She believes it is very easy to destroy him, but she does not know where the demon bone is in her husband's body. She asked him to imagine that he wanted to kill someone. He didn't understand what the second daughter general was saying. She told him to strangle her like he wanted to kill her. Then he looked at her face very sharply, and she saw that gaze exactly like God Jin. She ran away scared. She asked Chun Tao why he was kneeling on the snow. His assistant said he did it because she punished him for being there for 3 days. She didn't know what Shiru was doing, but Chun Tao said it was because when she pushed her first brother, he saved her brother instead of her, who also fell into the lake. She found out that he liked her first sister, and she didn't expect that they liked the same partner. She wondered why he became her husband. Her assistant didn't know for sure, but he was a hostage prince from the land of Jing. He was exiled in his country because his disposition was considered strange, and his parents exiled him. Chun Tao directed her to go into her room and rest because it was very cold. She was silent and spoke to her heart. She hoped her parents would calm down because she was in a noble family, and she was the one Tantai Jin feared the most. She didn't want to kill him just like that because she wanted to change the fate of that weak man. But at that time, she will still punish him by kneeling in the cold like Shiwu asked, so that he will feel the pain first because she still has a grudge against him. When the next morning came, she still couldn't believe that he was still kneeling under the snowfall. While her first sister was distributing porridge in the center of the village near the palace, she always did this every 15th day of Chinese New Year. Everyone praised her because Bingchang was a kind-hearted princess, unlike her sister. Prince Xiaolin came to help her, but not long after his arrival, she left him to go home as it was already late afternoon. She was very obedient to the rules in the palace. She asked that they meet again after she finished preparing the troops for the work war. Bing Chang's assistant accidentally said Tantai Jin was being punished on the ice. He heard this very pity, because how could Shiwu have the heart to punish him like that, while the man was a hostage prince? As night fell, Tantai Jin, who was trying to endure the cold of the season, was suddenly alerted by a crow to his wife's evil behavior. The palace servants felt strange there, because crows had appeared very often since the arrival of the prince. She, who was in her room that night, was very worried that Shiwu's punishment would make Tanta Jin die that night. The punishment had already entered the 4th day, and it was likely that he would die if not saved immediately. She felt confused because she didn't have the heart to punish him, but her grudge with the Jin god made her want to torture him. She decided to go out and peek at him because there was a group of people pouring water on the man's clothes. He looked so cold. He realized she was watching him. She threw her robe to him on the grounds that it was ugly, while she really wanted to protect him. She turned her back to him and thought about what she should do to him. She was very reluctant to help him, but she finally decided to save him. Unfortunately, when she turned around, he had fallen unconscious. She asked her assistant to help her save the man. Her assistant was shocked to see she hugging and bathing Tanta Jin. As she waited for him to wake up, she tried to find where the demon bone was. She groped Tanta Jin's body, but it made him wake up from his stupor. In his stupor, he dreamed of meeting an entity who said the suffering he was experiencing was a curse that had to be paid for with a sacrifice. After he dies, he will be at peace and can avenge all his suffering. She told him to get up and put on some clothes. She also forbade him to go out kneeling in the lake that night. As they were going to bed, she performed Shiwu's custom of drugging him. She felt Shiwu was cruel to whip the man every day, but Chun Tao said that every night she would do that to vent her anger. After marriage, she became a very emotional person because of her unrequited love. Susu whipped her a few times, but she thought it was too evil and would have a huge impact on the next 500 years of her life. She stopped the whipping and asked him to rest. When they started to fall asleep, she saw him shivering with fever. She called her assistant to give him a potion. Then she gave it to the prince, and he slowly woke up from his stupor. She gave him his blanket and told him how much she owed him. Shiwu's very different behavior made him think that after returning from praying at Chisho Temple, she had met an evil spirit or was possessed. She woke up from her sleep as it was nearing noon. She wondered where Tantai Jin had gone. Her assistant told her that he had gone to the library every morning to copy the scriptures. Then, Chun Tao directed her to meet the extended family at the dining table. When she was there, she was very confused and tried to observe all Chiwu members. She was so scared her father told her to sit next to her grandmother. She thought the old woman would hit her. Turns out she was wrong. Chiwu is Grandma's favorite grandson. Her grandmother immediately put on her coat, knowing she wasn't wearing hers. Her grandmother told her to be next to her father. He gave her her favorite food, knowing her little girl was in a bad mood. Even her family members were very attentive to her. Such an atmosphere was never felt by Susu. She only knew it was family warmth, like in the book. Her parents' attention was very different compared to her older siblings. When the gossip about her pushing Bingchang had spread throughout the city, they forbade her to apologize to her brother. When she admitted her guilt, all the members were shocked at the change in her attitude. And when she asked why Tantai Jin didn't eat with them, everyone was surprised by her words. When he finished eating, she asked his assistant about it. Chun Tao said it was because Shiwu didn't like him, and if he ate with them, it would take away his appetite. The assistant said during his stay in the palace, the prince's life was very isolated because of his deeds. He was only allowed to eat with the servants, and even the servants bullied him. That day, he had to wash dishes filled with ice cubes that were so cold they froze his hands. Hearing the story, she went straight to the kitchen, and all the servants said that day they tortured him as Chiwu wanted. But that day they were shocked because she scolded them for torturing Tantai Jin. She saw Tantai Jin taking the servants' food. She scolded him and threw the food away because it wasn't clean. And she also scolded him because he always didn't fight back when someone oppressed him. She gave him the food of the nobles, but he refused because he felt she was trying a trick to trap him. She didn't understand what he meant, so he explained again because she told him to. 6 months ago, she tried to trap Xiao Lin by using a silkworm stimulant that looked like a cake, and he tried to stop her. But unfortunately, the cake was accidentally eaten by him, and he felt very dizzy. Then she came to hug him because she also ate the cake. They had an illicit relationship, and everyone in the palace found out. To cover it up, the king married them off, and from then on, she loved to torture the prince out of anger. On proving the food was harmless, she told him to eat the food her assistant had prepared. Then she left him, and he began to eat it. The crow that used to talk to Tantai Jin said the Jing country where he came from seemed to be about to experience destruction. As it turned out, the crow's words had another purpose. The enemy kingdom of Jing was planning to use him. Chun Tao told her that all this time, Tantai Jin could talk to animals. The servants often saw her spending hours just talking to animals. She thought it was impossible and thought her assistant was gossiping, but Chun Tao kept assuring her that it was true. She thought Tantai Jin became like that because he had been isolated for too long and had no friends to talk to. Susu asked her assistant to help her protect the man, and she wanted to get the man to open his voice. She tried to approach him, but he avoided her and thought it was just a trick by the princess. She wondered if he had a grudge against her and wanted to kill her, and he just stared at her with the same gaze as the demon god. She kept trying to get close to Tantai Jin, who was being very cold. She praised the man's smile as very sweet and made him look handsome. She asked him to talk to her if he was bored in the residence. She asked her assistant to find winter clothes for him, but his clothes were too big. Her assistant thought the princess was very strange for being so good with the prince, and she also knew the prince's clothing size. When he received the clothes, he tried to use them, but Zayu, who used to bully him, tried to tear his clothes. He tried to fight the man, as she had once told him. She scolded Zayu for bothering Tantai Jin. She told him to change the clothes, but his brother continued to be rude to Tantai Jin. She asked her assistant to find new cold clothes for the prince, but the servant told her that the king had called Tantai Jin to talk to him. The king says the prince received a letter from the kingdom of Jing, but he refuses to receive news of the country he came from. The king asked if he didn't want to return to his country because his father and brother were about to die of illness. This brought a good opportunity for Tantai Jin to take over Jing's work, but he refused and had already forgotten his home country. He was willing to have his head cut off as a sacrifice, as he no longer wanted to fight for anything in life. He just wanted to fulfill his destiny and keep trying to live. The king thought Tantai Jin was a threat if he let him live, so he had his royal overseer pretend to get him to conspire with him. Overseer Wu came to see Tantai Jin and tried to be nice to him. He invited the prince to ruin Xiao Lin and Bingchang's wedding. If they managed to harm Xiao Lin, then he could have the woman of his dreams. He's actually not interested, as Xiao Lin is the only person who treats him well there, but he's tempted by the offer. Meanwhile, Chiwu asks her servant to take her to Tantai Jin's previous residence to find out about him. Overseer Wu was annoyed by Tantai Jin's rude words. He returned to his place and ordered his children and subordinates to kill the prince in the evening. The ravens and insects that heard the plan tried to protect their master. The insects got into Superintendent Yu Yu's ears and killed him. Xiaolin went to the king to discuss the strange happenings in the land of Xing, as many people were dying suddenly. He suspected it was the work of a demon that had begun to harass them, so the king sent a ritual master to help Xiaolin solve the problem. But the teacher was a little lazy in solving this problem, because the salary from the kingdom of Sheng was very small. After returning from Tantai Jin's old residence and meeting Yingxin, who had gone mad, she understood he was suffering greatly from his destiny as a demon fetus. Upon returning to the palace, she meets with her father and he forbids her to leave the palace if there is no urgent need. He explains that their country is in an unsafe condition. Many mysterious deaths have occurred there. She heard that the death of Supervisor Wu had a strong connection with Tantai Jin. When she entered the room, she tried to keep an eye on Tantai Jin's body because she was suspicious of his ability to talk to animals. She suspected he had used the animals as his tools for revenge. That night, the demon came to the land of Shang to look for people who could be used as sacrifices to nourish the nightmare flowers on Banzan Mountain. When everyone was already asleep, the demon took Yingxin and Bingchang aunts because she saw that these two people had unspoken grudges. The next morning, the king sent Pang Yizhi, the ritual master, and Xiaolin to find out where the king's first daughter had gone. Pang Yizhi walked around them, and she was worried that the identity of the demon fetus would be discovered by him because he was from the Xiaoyao sect. He stopped his steps and observed Tantai Jin very seriously. He felt that the man's face was very handsome and would become a rich man in the future. The ravens tell their master that the demon is taking the missing people to Banzan to fertilize the flowers she grows. Tantai Jin asks them to keep an eye on everyone in the palace, including Shiwu, who has turned into a very sensitive person to him. The demon returns to her lair and sees that her flower crops are quite lush because the sacrifices she chooses have very miserable lives. She saw Yingxin's life. She was a very miserable servant, but she takes care of the king's son, whose life is not much different from hers. The demon is interested in kidnapping the boy. Meanwhile, Pang Yizhi is trying to make a demon warding formation. Susu observes the man and she finds out the man is stupid in preparing the Xiao Yu ritual. As night approaches, the ritual master and the king's son wait for the formation to come to fruition. The demon came to Sheng's palace and searched for the whereabouts of Tantai Jin, at which time he was writing a letter to inform Bingchang's whereabouts. The demon learned that there was a Xiaoyao sect in the palace, and the formation managed to recall the demon's black mist. But a moment later, the demon came back and kidnapped Tantai Jin. Susu, who saw this, tried to protect him with the magic power still stored in her, but unfortunately, the demon took the two of them with it. Xiaolin, who found the letter in Tantai Jin's room, immediately took his troops to Banzan Mountain. While in the sky, Susu was confused because she was separated from Tantai Jin, but she heard the voice of the Hengyang sect leader. Her father instructs her to guard the mountain gate and tells her that Tantai Jin has been killed by a dream demon. When she woke up from her dream, she was tied to a vine and saw that Tantai Jin was still alive. She explained that they were currently in the Nightmare Flower Garden, searching for Bingchang's whereabouts. Everyone who enters there will be tied to the roots of the vines. Except for Tantai Jinkarina, he has never had a nightmare. He suspects that she has been investigating his identity because she knows his aunt Yingxin. When she was about to save her brother, there was a sudden white smoke that made her faint. Then she and Tantai Jin entered the past life when he was just born. Tantai Jin's mother was the daughter of Yue Ruan of the Yue tribe. Her father married her mother and made her a concubine in his kingdom. Her father loved Yue so much that she became pregnant with his first son, but when she gave birth, the kingdom was shocked by the birth. His mother died, and the baby was born unlike any other child. The king was angered by the baby's presence and exiled him. His servant couldn't bear it and chose to leave the kingdom and take care of the baby boy. The king of Jing country didn't actually want to do so, but he considered the child a disaster for his kingdom. As Tantai Jin begins to learn about his past, a dream demon suddenly takes him back to Mount Benzin. The dream demon knew Tantai Jin's weakness. He was born without the 7 emotions of a normal human. This made him unable to have nightmares, so she sprinkled dreams and put him to sleep. Meanwhile, Susu entered into a different past dimension with Tantai Jin. She returned to the past life of Yingxin, who began to take care of Prince Tantai. Yingxin and her brother decided to raise the boy in the Palace of Exile. They survived by relying on the jewelry they had. Since he was a baby, Tantai Jin had shown strange traits, but the two servants ignored him and regarded him as a normal baby. As the 6 years passed by, the treasures they had were slowly depleted. They couldn't buy enough food and could only eat a piece of bread every day. The little demon god grew up to be a child who was always bullied by other children his age, but he didn't understand what he was going through. He didn't know that the bullying made him lose his self-esteem. He only found out about the feelings when his nanny tried to tell him. Yingxin's brother decided to leave them and went to seek help in Yiyue country. Not long after her brother's departure, she and Tantai Jin were sent by the king to be hostages in the land of Sheng for diplomatic purposes. She thought her brother had betrayed them and chose to run away from the decision they had made. She and Tantai Jin lived a hard life in the Sheng country's exile palace. She was always oppressed by the servants or overseers in Sheng country. Meanwhile, Tantai Jin was bullied by the son of the king of Sheng, but the sixth son of the king Xiaolin always tried to protect her. He was always bullied because he was considered strange. He couldn't let his emotions out when others tried to bully him. As he grew into a man, he tried to learn many things. He was curious about the Rayless Mountain. He found out about that place because Xiaolin went to that land to study witchcraft. At that time, the fifth suit became very free to bully him because no one was defending Tantai Jin anymore. After a few years later, Xiaolin returned, and he started to like Bing Chang. Tantai Jin tried to emulate her actions in order to be like her. He became fond of Bin Chang and tried to get close to her, but she rejected him subtly. Growing up, he was always bullied, and he began to wonder why no one liked him. He even believed Yingxin was looking out for him because of the situation that trapped him, and she hated him so much. He tried to be normal and learned to recognize feelings, but it made him look very fake, and he still wasn't a normal human being. He apologized for leading her to such a difficult life, and he allowed Yingxin not to look after him anymore, but kowtow to her and say the assumptions the prince made were not true. At night, guards from the land of Jing came to Yingxin to give her the news that the first son of the king of Jing would marry and become king. He made her an offer to exterminate Tantai Jin. If she succeeded, the king would give her a way out of the Sheng exile palace, and she agreed. Susu tried to stop her, but she couldn't hear him. Not long after, Susu was brought back to the Garden of Dreams. Xiaolin and the ritual master tried to search for them using Xiao Yao's heirloom mirror, but they had difficulty entering as there was a magic portal blocking them. When Shiwu returned, she was shocked as nightmare flowers grew on his chest. She tried to wake him up, but he never opened his eyes. In his dream, he was in a life he had never experienced before. His mother and father welcomed him and treated him to delicious work food. He was respected by all the people of his country. He had a good relationship with his brother. His parents would make him a king after marrying the first princess of Sheng country. But when he uncovered the girl's face, she was not Bing Chang but Shi Wu, and soon he was in the place where his mother gave birth to him. He tried to approach his mother, but his father came to try to hurt him, and Yingxin and her brother left. Xiaolin cursed herself and said all the agonizing things that made her realize. Xiaolin continued to incite him to have feelings of resentment by continuing to say things that sought to hurt the prince. Tantai Jin can't stand Xiaolin's words. She starts to feel her ears hurt, and her tears fall. Xiaolin gave him a hint that to end all the storytelling, he had to meet his mother by killing himself first. Xiaolin gives him a dagger. Just as he starts to put the blade to his neck, Shiwu comes to hold the blade and makes his hand bleed. The ritual master and Xiaolin fight against the dream demon. They manage to win the fight thanks to the spell letter from Xiao Yu that Susu had revised. The dream demon returns to the flower garden of her nightmares. She is furious that Tantai Jin has not killed her, despite her attempts to instigate him. Then, she possessed Tantai Jin's body and brought him face to face with the demon god entity. The entity incited him to use the demonic power that was already inside him. He could control that power according to his will, and he could conquer the world. When he tried that power, he felt very happy. But not long after, he woke up from his dreamland and fell unconscious in the nightmare flower garden. The Sheng troops managed to discover their whereabouts, and all the people who were stuck there had already escaped from the vines. Xiaolin and his troops brought them all back to the land of Sheng. All the people entangled in the dream flower garden were in a very weak condition. The next day, one by one, they woke up from the nightmare. Shiwu woke up and realized the dagger wound was real. She confirmed Bing Chang and Tantai Jin's condition. Chun Tao told her that they were in their respective rooms. She was very worried about Tantai Jin's condition, but in this state, she's torn between her feelings of vengeance and her goal of changing Tantai Jin's fate. She decided to meet the man, but unfortunately, when she woke up from her dream, she saw that the power was already in her hands. He tried to use his power. He threw it at the crow and it left, but he became able to see using the crow's eyes. When Shiwu came to her, she wanted to use the power in the girl's hand. When she threw it, she fell down. But it was only in his mind. Shiwu didn't understand what he was doing. He saw that the girl's palm was injured, and he wondered if it was because she was trying to grab the dagger in her dream. She said it was really her. Chun Tao forbade her to touch his palm, because according to the doctor, the wound was very deep and she needed special care. She is afraid that Tantai Jin has been successfully instigated by the demon. She continues to look for ways to soften the man's heart. That way, she can save his fate. She tries to touch him in a gentle manner and make him understand feelings like a normal person. She invites him to visit Bing Chang's condition, while Xiao Lin continues to look after the woman's condition. The warrior asks him why he didn't ask the empire to immediately marry him off to the first princess as a reward for his struggle. He thinks there are many matters concerning Shang country that must be resolved first, and he asks Bing Chang to patiently wait for him. When they were already in front of the Bing Chang residence, at the same time they met, she tried to keep Xiao Lin away from Tantai Jin. But Xiao Lin sees them and wants to say something in private to Xiao and asks Tantai Jin to stay away from them for a while. He says that he will soon marry Bing Chang and asks her not to like him anymore. She says that she is sincere and promises not to bother him anymore. But besides that, he realized that now that she was more concerned about the condition of her country, he asked her to maintain her relationship with Tantai Jin and not make her hurt. If he died in the land of Shang, it would cause war with their country. She promised to take care of him even though she hated him. Tantai Jin, hearing the honesty of the two people they had trusted, began to feel angry and felt that something was making his chest tight. He didn't expect the two people he thought were being nice to him to still be the same as others who hated him. He wanted to use his power to destroy them, but he seemed to have a feeling, and he started to shed his tears. After Xiao Lin talked with Shiwu, he came to see the king and begged to marry the king's first princess. The king wanted to consider his warrior's wishes first, since he was such an important figure in his kingdom. Bing Chang was very happy that he was going to marry her, but her assistant said she shouldn't get excited just yet. All this time, even though she had the opportunity to get what she wanted, there would always be things that held her back. And true to what her assistant said, she would be married off to the second son of King Ye Qingyu. She is a child born to a concubine, so her life will not have many choices. Bing Chang was very disappointed with her life. All this time she had tried to learn to be a gentle girl according to the book of poetry. But still, she was treated differently by the king just because she was not the daughter of a legitimate wife. She destroyed the cloth she made for her wedding to Xiao Lin. She felt she had no hope of living with him. But Xiao Lin tried to convince her that if they were going to live happily together, he would fight for their love and asked her not to give up so easily. Tantai Jin had prepared a list of names of people who tried to hurt him. He could already feel the feelings of resentment that he had never felt. When Bing Chang's wedding day came, he came wearing his best clothes, and he came with Shiwu. He saw fifth son Sheng bullying a little boy who accidentally got in his way. He bullied him, and the boy's grandfather tried to apologize, but he ordered his guards to beat him up. This reminded Tantai Jin of the past, when the fifth son had tried to intimidate him and felt very resentful of his actions. The fifth son approached him and mocked his presence. Tantai Jin couldn't wait to get his revenge. The wedding day Bing Chang had been waiting for arrived, and the king finally approved of her marriage to Xiao Lin, and their wedding ceremony was about to begin. The fifth son continues to insult Tantai Jin. Shiwu, who is nearby, tries to stop the conversation, but Tantai Jin stares at him with an angry gaze. She sees the ritual organizing master coming in with a gift of an evil spirit antidote from the Xiao Yao sect. After chatting with the teacher, she realized Tantai Jin was no longer nearby, and he had disappeared when the ceremony began. After the reading of the wedding vows, crows entered the hall and attacked the fifth son's eyes. Not long after, a flock of crows flew into the palace. Tantai Jin hung up a list of names of people he wanted to make suffer. Then he scribbled their names. Instantly, the crows would attack their faces. One by one, he began to cross out names, but when he wanted to cross out Shiwu's name, he changed his mind not to hurt the girl. Meanwhile, Bing Chang and Xiao Lin were trying to find a safe hiding place for their wife. They used Master Xiao Yao's gift to protect her. Shiwu saw the flock of crows filling the hall, and she used what magic power she still had to stop the magic. Then instantly, the flock of crows dispersed and left the messy palace. Tantai Jin went to Bing Chang's hiding place. He took the spirit-warding object and gave it back to her. He left without hurting her and congratulated her. Shiwu came out from inside the hall and searched for Tantai Jin. She immediately called out to him and brought a sword when she saw him. He thought Shiwu was going to attack him, but he was wrong. She protected him from the crows that approached him. She immediately hugged him and invited him to run for shelter. He did not expect why she did that to him. He realized his strength would run out when he became someone like Xiaolin, and when she tried to approach him again, he tried to avoid her. He tried to dump Shiwu, who was trying to worry about him. He was curious why she only saved herself and didn't save anyone else who was there. She said that she actually liked him. At the beginning of their marriage, she hated him, but that feeling arose when they were often together as told in romantic genre books. And according to her as a couple, protecting is a must if one of them is in danger. He asked her to teach him to draw amulets so that he could also protect her. At first, she was hesitant, worried that he would only use her, but she agreed because she thought it could soften his heart. She was careful in teaching Tantai Jin to use the talisman. Initially, she taught him to make a talisman that did not have massive power. She taught him to make a landscape talisman. When she cast a spell on the image, instantly flowers bloomed outside and even entered the room. And there was a magic butterfly that came near her. The magic didn't have the function of fighting power, but when she was young, she used the spell to travel around the world to gain new impressions of her life. He thought people who cultivated were boring, but she explained that when the three elements of body, heart, and intention come together, a pill of tranquility is formed. He was amazed by the beauty of scenic magic, and she told him that he should know the door to the path of dispassion and other paths of life. He was determined to learn magic like the teachings of the gods, but he had not succeeded in bringing magic to life from the talisman images he made. She thinks it's because he has a demon soul, so maybe that's why he can't master the science of the holy god. He asked why his amulet drawing didn't work. She explained that drawing amulets must be in a holy feeling without thinking of evil, and must remain focused. As he focused on learning to draw amulets until he didn't realize that it was getting late, she, who accompanied him, was getting sleepy and fell asleep. He wakes her up because she has to teach him. She gets annoyed and teaches him to make a new amulet. She drew a talisman to tie him with a rope so that he would rest and not stay up all night studying. She hugged him and fell asleep on his shoulder. He felt very awkward because it was his first time. He tried calling Shiwu's name repeatedly to wake her up, but she remained fast asleep. He looked at her deeply and remembered everything she said about feelings. He glanced at the drawing of the backup talisman he made. Then he followed Shiwu's advice for the talisman to work. He tried it again, and the magic worked, as his heart felt happy and comfortable seeing the scenery from the spell. King Sheng asked his liner to look for information about Tantai Jin. Then he found out that the man had the bloodline of the Yi Wei tribe. The king knew the tribe had the ability to speak with ungags, so he believed Tantai Jin was a very dangerous person. He intended to exterminate Tantai Jin secretly. Meanwhile, Liner informed that her second son Qing Yu would be returning home that day, and the people welcomed him. Qing Yu was a prince who was highly respected by the people because he was very authoritative and worked hard to protect the land of Sheng. The king realized Qing Yu had a very different nature from his first son, who was very unreliable in the kingdom. When Qing Yu arrived home, he immediately prostrated himself before the king because he felt guilty for not doing the filial service at home and being away for too long. He had a very different nature from the other sons of the king. He was very high on royal values. As they gathered in the dining hall, he noticed the absence of the king's second daughter and tried to ask his grandmother about it. The king's first son said things that tried to intimidate Shiwu, and Qing Yu scolded him for bringing down the family. After the meal, Qing Yu went straight to meet him in the attic, and it upset him greatly that his sister was behaving like a royal princess who knew no manners. He punished her by hitting her hand until she realized what she had done. Qing Yu punished her and told her to kneel for 30 minutes, but she didn't want to do it. Chun Tao tells her that if she doesn't do it, he will increase the punishment. Shiwu doesn't understand why her younger brother is punishing her while her elder brother is afraid of her. Chun Tao tells her that Qing Yu is the leader of the family. Shiwu didn't know that because she thought the leader of the family was her father. But it turns out that in Sheng Kingdom, the first son is the leader of the family. In Sheng Kingdom, the value of manners is highly valued, but the first son could not do it well. Eventually, the second son took his place because he was so good at upholding the Sheng family manners. While she was doing the punishment, her assistant came to see her and told her that Qing Yu had come to Tantai Jin's attic. She immediately panicked, thinking that her sister would make Tantai Jin angry, and there would be chaos in their palace again. Qing Yu came to him to apologize and invite him to eat together. Besides that, he asked about the chaos that happened at Bing Chang's wedding. He felt that there was something wrong at the Xuancheng king's residence yesterday. The crows disrupted the wedding and many people were injured. But why Tantai Jin didn't suffer any injuries at all? He thought it had something to do with Jing's work, and the only person from Jing's work there was Tantai Jin. Hearing that, he laughed and reasoned that he survived because of a coincidence. Qing Yu threatens him and says she will read his bones if he feels innocent. Tantai Jin feels panicked. But luckily, Shiwu came at the right time as she gave an excuse to protect her husband, and Qing Yu believed her. To overcome her brother's mistake that day, he told them to start taking Tantai Jin out to eat with them. She ran after her brother and asked if he really mastered the divine knowledge of Xiao Yu, but it turned out to be just a bluff to threaten Tantai Jin. Then, Qing Yu left her and attended the royal prince's talk. They discussed the workings of the Jing country, which was in danger of collapse. The ritual master tried to predict the future fate of the kingdom. When he read the meaning of the coin toss, it said that the person who would reconcile the world was in the Shang kingdom. They couldn't guess who it was, but afterward Qing Yu tried to find the kingdom's first prince, who wasn't present at the talk. Meanwhile, Tantai Jin was doing his usual activities every day. But he began to realize that the stealth power he had sometimes seemed to suddenly run out and could come back again. He began to be cautious with Qing Yu, who began to suspect him, and Chiwu, who always approached him when he was in a threatening situation. When Qing Yu found the royal first prince, he was at a gambling place, and he had already taken off some of his clothes because he had run out of gambling capital. He looked at the man with great annoyance, kicked him, and told him to kneel in the ancestral hall. Tantai Jin began to think about his plan to master witchcraft or increase his strength. He planned that when the new year came, there would be a lot of people so he could look for stealth in disguise. At the same time, Chiwu came up to him and asked him to go to the shopping center to prepare for the new year. At first, he refused, but he thought it was a good opportunity to hunt for stealth. As for Qing Yu, when he broke up the gambling, he gave her his robe to cover the body of the girl there. As he was leaving the gambling place, she stopped him and engaged him in conversation. He felt he remembered something. He felt like he had seen her before, like she had kissed him when he was down in battle. Tantai Jin had never had the chance to leave the palace, but now she allowed him to go out, but she had to accompany him. Shiwu takes Tantai Jin for a walk around the market, but it turns out that a priest and a follower are trying to spy on them. As they were walking and looking at the wares, she was surprised to see her younger brother there, and she asked Tantai Jin to hide. She noticed Qing Yu was with a girl. He was carrying her groceries. Shiwu was very curious who the girl with his brother was. Actually, he did that to make up for his first brother's debt because he couldn't pay the gambling debt. Pian Ran used Qing Yu to pay off the debt. Lastly, she asked him to buy her a lip color. She asked him to put it on for her. He was very awkward when touching her lips. His younger brother, who saw that, did not expect that his very authoritative younger brother would do that. Shiwu suspected there was a strange scent around them, but he didn't think he smelled it. Although in truth, he knew it was the scent of stealth energy that was beginning to appear near them. While it was getting late in the afternoon, Qing Yu drove the girl home, and she felt drawn to him. She invited him to stop by her house, but he declined as it was his last night there, and there were still many tasks to be completed at the palace. Tantai Jin waited for Shiwu to go shopping for clothes. Then she called him over to try on the clothes she had chosen. She bought him a variety of clothes for several seasons. When they finished shopping, they saw a firecracker seller selling under the snowfall. She felt sorry for him and bought all the firecrackers, but he said that even if she helped him in that way, she would still do the same thing tomorrow. He said the money she had wouldn't solve all the problems. She felt he was right. She would never be able to eradicate poverty in the world. Everyone in the land of Sheng was rejoicing on New Year's Eve. The residents of the palace spent the evening eating special dishes and playing card games. When grandmother distributed gifts, she gave Shiwu the most special gift because she was her favorite granddaughter. Shiwu hugged her grandmother, tears in her eyes. She was so grateful to have a family that loved her so much, and Tantai Jin, who she might still be able to save. Meanwhile, the king was feeling very angry with the threat of the hostage prince's existence. Tantai Jin realized something was calling him, so he came out, and it turned out to be a woman in a black robe. It turned out that the person was Lanan's aunt who had left her with Yingxin. She explained that she did that because she was looking for a foothold to save their lives. He took advantage of his freedom to leave the Palace of Exile and went to the Yiyue tribe to seek help. She left because she believed Tantai Jin had passed on her mother's skills, and now she came with the son of the Neon tribe. He came to be Tantai Jin's bodyguard, and he has the same skills as the Yiyue tribe. All this time, she had joined forces with the Yue tribe to gain power. Eventually, after 20 years, she was able to return to the land of Sheng to fetch Tantai Jin, but she has no interest in living in the Yue tribe. Lanan tries to seduce her with the hope of a good life, because so far she has never felt it. He feels his life has changed. He can understand the meaning of feelings, and he has learned many new things with Shiwu. He asked Aunt Lanan if homesickness was a human trait, and she replied that all humans generally had this feeling. He agreed to come back to the Yue tribe because he wanted to study human nature. In addition, he wanted to try things that he should have. The next morning was their departure time to sail to the land of Yue. He made plans for what he would do tomorrow. He felt that the girl who was with Jing Yu could be his tool because he smelled the scent of stealth from her. But he felt a strange feeling when he thought of Chiwu. He felt that there was something that made him uncomfortable. When he was immersed in his thoughts, suddenly she came over to him. She invited him to burn the firecrackers she bought earlier, but it turned out that the firecrackers were very ugly and did not spark beautiful sparks. Then she used the scenery talisman to watch the firecrackers that decorated the sky. She said it was a very different New Year's Eve from the previous year. She promised not to bully him and would always take care of him. She invited him to play snowballs, and they spent the night together until they were exhausted. Meanwhile, Pian Ran spent the night drinking alcohol and hallucinating. She imagined that night she was celebrating the new year with Qing Yu. When she realized it was just a fantasy, she couldn't hold back her tears. Suddenly, someone knocked on her door, and it turned out to be Qing Yu. She immediately hugged him and cried on his shoulder. The next morning, when the Sheng royal family was eating together, the king realized his second son was not there. His guards said Qing Yu had left last night while everyone was having fun celebrating the new year. The king suspected that his son was with a woman. He vowed to let Qing Yu be with any girl, and he would still consider him a son-in-law. Shi Wu and Tantai Jin were in the attic, thinking of something strange about Qing Yu after yesterday's incident. She tried to remember the weirdness she found yesterday, and she realized the scent yesterday was the demon attached to the girl. She immediately rushed over to Pang Yiji, but Tantai Jin asked to come with her. He reasoned that since he had learned Xiao Yu's divine knowledge, maybe it would be useful to help them. She thinks he has studied hard to learn the divine knowledge, but actually, he has other intentions with the girl who is with Qing Yu. Meanwhile, Qing Yu was sitting on the floor of Pian Ran's room. He had kept the drunk girl company all night. When she woke up, she scolded him for sneaking into her house, but she was wrong, and realized Qing Yi had been looking after her. She invited him to eat together before he left her, and he agreed. He told her about the reason why he wanted to accompany the girl, because he felt he owed her a favor. She was the one who had saved him from the war in Jiaguan 3 months ago. He immediately realized when he met her again because of the jewelry left in her hand at that time. He admits to knowing Pian Ran's true identity. She immediately pulls him away and kisses him again. Shi Wu asked Pang Yi for help, but he gave the excuse of not being able to help her because he was very busy, but she seduced him to come with her, and finally he agreed. The three of them went straight to the demon girl's house. They saw Qing Yu lying on the bed, and she was sucking the energy out of him. Shi Wu went straight to him and stopped the demon girl's actions, and they fought, but not long after, Tantai Jin used his knowledge to stop them. As the girl's smoke drifted into the Hangshuan building, Pang Yiji tried to create a holy shield to keep the demon out. Shi Wu tried to look for her all over the room. Tantai Jin managed to find the demon girl first. She tries to tease him, but he avoids her. Then she scratches his neck. Suddenly, Tantai Jin's power appeared, and a demonic whisper told him to suck the energy from the demon girl. He does so, and she begs for mercy as her life becomes endangered. Shi Wu suddenly manages to find them. She tries to stop Tantai Jin's actions. She expresses her disappointment that he studied demon science and not holy god science. He argued that he just wanted to try to increase his magic power, and he pushed the two women to the ground. The demon girl blew magic into Shi Wu's eyes, and that made Shi Wu her incarnation. Tantai Jin realized that, and promised to guard Shi Wu's life for the time being. Meanwhile, Lanan and his followers had been waiting for Tantai Jin to set sail, but he had yet to arrive. Lanan actually has a specific purpose in utilizing Tantai Jin, but his neon followers try to prevent that bad intention. She explained that it wasn't such a bad thing, because right now, like Yue, she really needed Tantai Jin. Not long after Tantai Jin arrives with an unconscious Shi Wu, Lanan is worried that Tantai Jin bringing Yes Shi Wu will complicate their plans at the Ye tribe. He explains why he brought her because he thinks she can be their tool before he kills her out of spite. The Ye family was very disappointed with Qing Yu's failure to protect King Sheng's second daughter. Fortunately, Xiao Lin was willing to lead the troops and search for Shi Wu's whereabouts. Pang Yizhi equipped them with Xiao Yu's magic wand, and the workforce immediately headed for the mouth of the river that directly connects to the sea. But unfortunately, they were too late. Tantai Jin had already set sail and left no trace. Bai Yu, as the leader of Neon, tried to mobilize his troops to protect their journey. He swore to Lan'an to serve the Yiyue tribe. After Tantai Jin takes over the throne of the Yiyue tribe, he will remain loyal to the tribe, to make up for his mistake in not being able to protect Princess Fuya. Actually, Lan'an's main goal at this time is to try to find his lost daughter Fuya again. Meanwhile, Tantai Jin met Shiwu, who couldn't free herself, because the rope tied to her hand couldn't be released by any spell. He begins his revenge, telling the truth of his intentions all along. All this time, he had been acting and continued to succumb to the Shang kingdom that had always oppressed him. The silkworm that he ate was not just to protect the first princess, but he thought that if he married Shiwu, it would open up opportunities to get out of the palace. He was always thinking of ways to get opportunities and still act as if he had no power. He has had the ability to talk to animals for a long time, so he always avoided people who had evil plans with him. All this time, what drove Yingxin crazy was Tantai Jin. He tricked her aunt who was planning to kill her that night. He switched the food that she had served and had spiked with anesthetic to launch the action. Then, as she ate the switched meal, it wasn't long before she fell down in the hallway of the seclusion palace. Supervisor Wu seized the moment and abused her, driving Yingxin crazy. Shiwu didn't realize that she had misjudged Tantai Jin as an innocent and weak demon god-to-be. She deeply regrets saving him, and now the situation makes it even more difficult for Susu to change Tantai Jin's fate for good. Meanwhile, Emperor Sheng is angry with his officials, and his second son, his favorite princess, is missing, and it really makes he and his mother angry. He had devised the wrong plan. Previously, he thought marrying his daughter to the hostage prince would make the man submit to him, but he was wrong. Tantai Jin was the source of disaster for his country. Currently, everyone in the Ye residence was very busy because the king had asked them to find his favorite princess. Meanwhile, on the sailing trip to the Yiyue residence, a tribal representative gave Tantai Jin a power pill. He tried to swallow it and tried to master the energy inside. Tantai Jin told the guards to give Shiwu some food. She had trouble eating it, so it fell out. She hit the guard who was picking up the food by the scruff of the neck. She was able to untie the rope using the magic given by Lan'an. Actually, she didn't know what plan Lan'an was executing by giving her a magic spell to release her from the rope. She just told him it was her way of getting her plan off the ground. Lan'an went to Tantai Jin. She wiped the sweat from her face as she was too focused on studying the magic he was drinking. Then he gave Lan'an a skewer, an object often used by a child as a symbol of affection for his mother. He already considers Lan'an as his mother because all this time she has been fighting for and taking care of him. She received it with confusion and remembered her daughter who was missing. Actually, Princess Lan'an is currently a vassal of the Jing Kingdom and is devoting her life to the Jing King, but she doesn't know about it. While Shiwu continued to try to hide, she had a little trouble finding a safe place because the ship was closely watched by guards. Lan'an brought a group of girls to entertain Tantai Jin on the long journey. While the girls were preparing to perform, Shiwu snuck into the room. She disguised herself as a neon girl like them, so she managed to trick the guards who entered. No sooner was she in the clear than the girls were invited to begin the performance. She took the harp that was in the room. She was sure that with her musical skills, she could trick everyone there. When the show started, everyone noticed something strange about the harpist. She had trouble playing the instrument because it was very different from what she was used to playing in her realm. Tantai Jin realized it was Shiwu. He told her to dance, but it turned out that she was able to dance very skillfully. She approached him and teased him with the dance. She strangled Tantai Jin with the scarf she had hung around his neck, threatening the guards not to go near him or she would kill him. Lan'an asked what she really wanted. She asked for a boat so that she could sail away on her own. Tantai Jin forbids it as it's a trick for her to escape, but Lan'an orders the guards to give her a boat. When she was caught off guard, the guards untied the shawl and surrounded Shiwu. She chooses to drown herself in the ocean. He tries to stop her and wants her to live longer before he kills her. At the Ye residence, Xiaolin tries to come up with a brilliant plan to save the land of Sheng, but Emperor Sheng is not thinking clearly due to the loss of his daughter. At Jing's palace, Fuyu gave her master information about Tantai Jin's whereabouts and life. She was curious why the prince was so curious about the news of the hostage prince. He explained the reason was because King Jing told him to. Actually, he really hated his sister. Before the king died, he asked for his last request to meet Tantai Jin. By seeing his son, he felt that he would die in peace because Tantai Jin had eyes that were descended from his wife Ru. The prince hated him so much because concubine Ru was the one who killed his mother. He was furious and chose to spend the king's life right then and there. That way, he would immediately gain power in the land of Jing. Tantai Jin noticed the ship carrying him was slowing down. Lannan explained it was because they were about to pass through a current that split into two. The Mohe current is very swift. At the edge of the waters, there is land, and Qi Shuang has managed to find Shiwu there. She was still alive. Their ship stopped at the edge of the land, and Qi Shuang handed Shiwu over. Tantai Jin asked them to remove her head covering. Upon opening, she fired the bullet in her hand at Tantai Jin's eye, but he caught it. He smiled because he thought the weapon was so trivial. A moment later, the bullet opened and shot a needle into his eye. The guards on the ship tried to protect their master, but Qi Shuang mobilized the mainland troops to attack Tantai Jin. Qi Shuang says the bullets piercing his eyes will make him go blind because the pills he took will speed up the work of the poison in his body. He feels so betrayed by the Ye tribe, he awakens demonic powers to attack them. But his magic is lost when Lannan sticks his dagger into Tantai Jin's neck. She ordered the troops to stop the fight. Tantai Jin couldn't believe that someone he thought of as a mother would cheat on him. Then Fuyu and Tantai Minlong came to him. Tantai Jin couldn't move himself because the bodyguard who betrayed him had stuck a sword in his neck. Tantai Minlong promised Lannan to release his daughter if she could bring Tantai Jin to him. Tantai Minlong explained all the reasons why she was looking for him and why she hated him so much. Tantai Minlong wanted to torture Tantai Jin first. He wanted to put burning coals on his face. When Tantai Minlong was a child, concubine Rao tried to harm her mother to death, so she became the only woman by the king's side. Since his mother's death, he has suffered, and his father has paid more attention to concubine Ru because she was pregnant with Tantai Jin. He was neglected by his father and left to spend his time alone in his room. While playing, he accidentally fell over the coals of the room heater. He suffered burns on parts of his body. His father deemed him unfit to take the throne in the future due to his disability. Although Tantai Jin had the fate of being exiled by his father as well, he still hated him because of his mother's mistake. Lannan forbade Tantai Minlong to torture the man, though she encouraged him to kill. Tantai Jin asked to be given a chance to speak with Lannan. He asked why she was supporting Tantai Minlong. She explained that she had helped him find his daughter, and she vowed to return the favor. She doesn't regret betraying Tantai Jin because her daughter is much more valuable now. In the past, she wanted to protect him because she had no offspring, so she considered him her son. She and her sister had sacrificed a lot for him, but he harmed his sister, just because of a betrayal that was not worth the sacrifices she had made. He felt so betrayed that time, he used the insect on her hairpin to kill her. Then, he tried to use his power to get rid of Fuyu and Tantai Minlong, but Fuyu's magic was able to defeat him. Tantai Minlong laughed with satisfaction as the needle that poisoned her sister's body had reacted to spread through her blood. Tantai Jin took a dagger to slash his hand to prove whether he died of poison or blood loss first, after which he drowned himself in water. Shiwu drowned himself during the fight. She gave herself up to die in the Mode River. He apologized to his father and the gods of the holy sect for failing to change the fate of the demon god. Suddenly, she received an ancient jade heirloom made by a god, and a whisper told her to carry the stone. The moment the stone was in her hands, she was on the mainland and in a very strange village. She intended to send a letter to the Ye family that she was doing well in the land of Jing. While the Yi Wei tribesmen were currently being held hostage by the Jing kingdom, Qi Shuang gave himself up to become a vassal of Tantai Minlong. But she rejected him because Qi Shuang was the kind of hypocrite she hated, and she ordered her guards to exterminate him. Bai Yu and the other Yi Yu people were under heavy guard. He ordered the animals there to release them, and they managed to escape. Bai Yu vowed to be a loyal follower of Tantai Jin and would search for his whereabouts, even though Lannan had betrayed them as well. Shiwu walked along the land for 100 miles to get back to the land of Sheng. She was very worried that Tantai Jin was dead, because all her struggles so far would be in vain. At the riverbank, she did not expect to find Tantai Jin stranded helplessly. She tried to wake him up, but he still didn't wake up. Then she tried to give first aid, and thankfully he was still alive. She took him into an uninhabited hut. When he woke up, he felt very confused why she still saved him and didn't kill him immediately. She didn't explain the exact reason, but she diverted the confusion. She asked what had happened on the ship at that time, and she asked about the whereabouts of Linen and the Yi Yue tribe. He told her the real situation that happened yesterday. She immediately scolded him because he had the heart to kill the person he had considered a mother. She felt sorry for saving a murderer, but he again explained the circumstances that actually happened. Until the reason is willing to trust Lanan and sail with him. Hearing that, Shiwu actually felt very sorry because in his entire life, he had never felt genuine affection. She realized Lanan's intention of helping her escape from the ship was only to further her plans. She plans to take him back to Shang country and lock him up in the palace forever. He laughed at Shiwu's words. He thought it was ridiculous because how could someone who hated him so much spend their life with him? Meanwhile, Tantai Minlang and his guards have managed to find Tantai Jin's blood. He didn't expect the man to still be alive. He vows to kill his sister and watch her die. Xiao Lin is waiting for her soldiers at the border of Jing country. The soldiers in charge of searching for traces managed to find traces of troops from Jing country. He helped her burn the fish she had caught. She wondered why he was so good at catching fish. It was because he was used to catching fish, or the animals would come by themselves and submit themselves to be Tantai Jin's food, with he being able to survive. Despite lacking proper nourishment while in Sheng's exile palace, he gave his fish to her, but she refused because he needed to eat enough to get back on his feet just as he was about to eat the fish. Thick blood suddenly came out of his mouth. At the same time, Jing's army found their hiding place. She took him into hiding, but he asked her to just hand him over to Tantai Minlang. She insisted on protecting him and told him to stay hidden. She came to them and said she didn't recognize Tantai Jin, but the soldiers tried to attack her. Tantai Jin helped by sending ravens to attack Jing's soldiers. She managed to escape, but by then Sheng's army had found Jing's soldiers and they fought until Jing's soldiers died. Unfortunately, they still didn't get any results. Tantai Jin and Shiwu return to the hideout, and they decide to spend the night there. She sees that there are a lot of amulets that he puts up his sleeve, but she says the amulets no longer work when exposed to water, and he vomits thick blood again. He said it was Tantai Minlang who wanted to kill him using poison from the bullet that was in her hand at the time. She was annoyed that he didn't immediately tell her about it. She hurried to find a way to bargain for the poison in him. Fu Yu tells Tantai Minlang that the capital of Jing is in trouble, and he must return to the city immediately. She went searching for various herbs to treat Tantai Jin after leaving the man for a few hours. Thankfully, he was still alive. She pounded medicines to heal his wounds. He still didn't understand why she was trying so hard to save him. She will give the reason when the time comes. She asked him to pray that the time will not come soon. She asked him to take off his clothes, but he didn't want to because he felt awkward. She said it wasn't taboo anymore because they were husband and wife. He still didn't understand because when on the ship, she said their relationship had ended. He finds a strange object that fell out of Shiwu's clothes. He picks it up and asks about it. She actually didn't want to tell him, but she said it was a jade death heirloom from the gods. She found it while heading to the mainland. He wanted to use it for himself. She forbade him because she didn't know it would make him recover or die. She told him to eat the herbs so that he could live. She would not just let him die. Actually, he had almost given up on his life, but because she made him back convinced to stay alive. Then they fell asleep, leaning on each other. The next morning, when she brought Tantai Jin out of the forest, Fu Yu found them and immediately attacked Tantai Jin. Shiwu tried to protect her using her magic, but unfortunately, the magic didn't work, and Fu Yu retaliated with a heart-eating magic that could make Shi fall asleep to death. Tantai Jin tried to cover Shiwu because he felt that there was still something unresolved. He took the Death Jade to fight Fu Yu. He managed to fight Fu Yu, although he couldn't kill her, but she managed to leave him. He again vomited thick blood. He tried to walk towards Shiwu with a hobbled path. He lay helpless next to Shi, who was still unconscious. When she woke up and saw Tantai Jin was very weak, she tried to resuscitate him, but unfortunately, he had swallowed the Death Jade. She kept trying to pull the stone out of Tantai Jin's body, but found her magic incapable. The Jade Guardian entity told her the Jade of Death was attached to one of Tantai Jin's eyes. If one wanted to remove it, one had to sacrifice his body. The entity again asked if Shiwu was sure she would sacrifice herself for a man like Tantai Jin. She told the entity about her goal of saving Tantai Jin. She asked for a way to destroy the demon bone inside the man's body. The entity said she would find a way in a remote ravine. Shiwu again tried to pull the Death Jade from Tantai Jin's body, and she succeeded in pulling it out. Not long after, Ayu found them. She immediately hid and let Tanta Jin be taken by them. She only wanted to leave Tantai Jin with them because she believed they were her loyal followers. She didn't think it was possible for her to take Tantai Jin to a remote ravine in his dying condition. Emperor Sheng sent Xiao Lin to organize the war in Haogyang. while also releasing Qing Yu to return to the Jiaguan border. That day, good news came to the Ye family, as they received a letter from Shiwu. While Shiwu continued to walk along the land and look for a way to a remote ravine, she had started to feel exhausted and had not found the cave. Suddenly, she smelled a familiar scent. She saw the fox demon again. She approached him. The fox demon said his magic power was weakened by Tantai Jin's blood. Shiwu thought the death jade could heal the demon, so she offered to heal it. After she was healed, the fox demon said that her life since coming out of the desolate abyss had changed for the worse. Shiwu was curious as to where the fox demon girl came from. She said that she was born to a couple who worshipped demon gods. All the gods and their worshippers live in the remote abyss. The fox demon is trying to get out of the abyss because the guardian spirit there has been guarding for thousands of years, so its strength is getting weaker, and many demons are trying to get out. She said the guardian who was still there was the god Jize. Hearing this, Shiwu remembered the words of the Hengyang sect leader. Jize god is the god who made the mirror of the past. She understands why the death jade entity threw her into the abyss. While Tantai Jin was again instigated by a demonic entity that made him interested in revenge. He has actually started to have human-like, and it will be difficult for him to consider if he wants to avenge Shiwu. Shiwu already felt that the magic attacking her eyes had started to take effect, but she still wanted to ignore it and focus on continuing her mission. The fox demon invites her to his residence first to rest. She will accompany Shiwu to go to the abyss, even though she didn't want to deal with it before. Now that she and Shiwu have become friends, Shiwu forbids her from absorbing human energy to improve her cultivation ability. But Pan said the reason was that she just felt he was flirting with her, and it caught her attention. Shiwu couldn't wait to get to the desolate abyss, but the fox demon asked him to be patient, because their conditions were not good. Pianran is curious why she wants to go there so badly. Shiwu explains that the reason is because she wants to save many lives in the Four Realms. The fox demon said that going there was very difficult. Her struggle to get out of there made her lose strength for thousands of years. While Shiwu is an ordinary human, to go there she is like a person who just wants to give up her life. Even so, Pianran will still support her, and they will leave after dawn. While in the kingdom of Jing, Tantai Minlang was at her late mother's place. He swore to her that he would take their revenge on the descendants of Ru. But no sooner had he said that than a pack of rats got in there and knocked out all the candles, leaving Tantai Minlang surrounded by flames. Tantai Jin came to him and made good on his promise to destroy his brother. He had used demonic powers to take control of the land of Jing. After Tantai Minlang's death, Tantai Jin became the only prince who could become king of Jing. But the ministers did not approve of him. Even though many disliked him in the land of Jing, Tantai Jin would still do so graciously before destroying him. Tantai tried to provoke the ministers of the Jing kingdom, and in the end they inevitably bowed down to her. In the land of Shang, news of the Jing kingdom's situation had already been heard there. The emperor of the land of Shang thought it was a good time to go to war to conquer the land of Jing. But Ye Xiao tried to oppose the rash plan because he had already begun to suspect that Tantai Jin was no ordinary person. The emperor of Shang kingdom ignored him and ordered his guards to prepare the troops for war. Meanwhile, Shiwu and the fox demon continued to walk through the desert until they finally reached the border of the abyss. Pianran only led them to that point. Tantai Jin was sitting on his throne waiting for news from Bai Yu. They said that currently, Shiwu's trail has not been found. But Shang country was going to attack Jing country in the near future. The ministers thought it was impossible for them to advance. The Jing country was in a state of chaos, but Tantai Jin did not agree to them surrendering. He organized his strategy to use his power, and he would go straight into battle. Shiwu tried to put Chong Yu and the Jade Heirloom together to protect her as she plunged into the abyss, while there she felt like she was in a time mirror. When she reached the bottom, she realized her hands were full of forgetfulness, and then she heard a voice calling her and telling her to stay by her side. Shiwu saw an unconscious little girl being harassed by a herd of demons. She tried to help her because she didn't want to let an innocent soul die. She took her to find the god. She saw a shimmering golden light, so she approached him. She thought the one who invited her to talk was her senior, but it turned out that he was the god who made the mirror of the past. The god of Jize told her that if she wanted to destroy the demon bone, she must have 3 keys, namely dreams, tears, and a piece of silk. She must find it on the demon god. She will get a dream by herself to get tears from the demon god, and she must touch the heart of the demon god to get a piece of thread. When the 3 keys have been obtained, she will hold a divine nail, and she must pierce it into the heart of the demon god so that the demon's bones are destroyed. Lord Ji understands that it will be very difficult to do. She only has 300 days to get the 3 keys, because after the time comes, the remote abyss will explode, and the world will be chaotic. She came out of the remote abyss and tried to wake up the little girl. It turned out that she was Fuya, who was banished by Tantai Minlang. While the war in Shang and Jing continues, the emperor of Shang is dying, and now his second son is leading the war. Destruction begins to take place in the land of Shang, and Tantai Jin has managed to become the leader of the land of Jing with his demonic powers. Tantai Jin continued to press his followers to find out Shiwu's whereabouts, but the captives from Shang said no one knew of his existence. She seemed to have disappeared into thin air, while the country of Shang was in crisis due to the war that had been going on for several months. Qing Yu being the only person who could be relied upon to lead the war, he started sending letters to other countries to seek reinforcements. Tantai Jin kept asking his followers to look for an interesting demon. Bai Yu said there was a 7-tailed fox demon roaming the land of Jing. Tantai Jin asked them to look for it and let him catch the demon. An Ran was walking through the wilderness, then she was surrounded by the Yi Yue tribe. Tantai Jin originally wanted to kill the demon directly, but he thought the fox demon would be useful to help him. He told her to take a pill that made her obey him. Then she inevitably took it because of her threatened condition. Tantai Jin sent her to meet Qing Yu to give her message. She told Qing Yu to give up the war before more blood was shed, and the country of Shang was hit by a worsening crisis. The war that broke out really angered Tantai Jin because this war started from the emperor of Shang, underestimating the hostage prince, who used to be an oppressed. Now it's Shang's country that has to bear the consequences. But he ignores the girl's words. He still wants to fight for his country. She gave him a meeting letter from her master. Then the next day, he met Tantai Jin. Tantai Jin tried to provoke him to surrender because they knew King Shang was a foolish man who acted on his emotions. Tantai Jin knew Qing Yu's life in the Ye family was often treated unfairly and was often underestimated. Even though he had given his best effort, King Shang still wouldn't listen to him. Qing Yu was a person who really cared about the common people. If he continued this war, then many commoners would suffer even more. Tantai Jin said that if the war ended, then all the people of Shang would be safe, and no lives would be lost in the war. From the conversation, Qing Yu thought that Tantai Jin's words were just to trick him. He would still try to win the war. He and his troops had been standing guard at the Jiaguan border. He was holding the jade heirloom given to him by his father. When he saw that the troops from Jing had entered his territory, Qing Yu remembered all the words that the fox demon and Tantai Jin had said to him. He weighed his reputation and the lives of his people. After seeing the army from the land of Jing that was stronger than Shang, it made him think that it was very difficult to conquer and would cause a lot of bloodshed. Finally, he chose to surrender before the attack began, and Tantai Jin fulfilled his promise. Tantai Jin visited Jiangguan. He saw that the place was very worn out. Qing Yu apologized that as long as Tantai Jin was the hostage prince, he had an uncomfortable life and was always oppressed. Qing Yu knelt down and promised to be his loyal follower. Tantai Jin told her to get up and say thank you again. Qing Yu tried again to ask if Tantai Jin had known Shiwu's whereabouts. Tantai Jin didn't know where his brother was. She had been missing for months, and no one had even found a trace of her. While now Shiwu has returned, she returns Fuya to her parents. Relieved that the little girl was born to commoners, she suggested that the little girl should change her name, so that Fuya could start a good new life after disappearing. Her parents asked Shiwu to give her a name. She changed her name to Yueya. Shiwu also asked her to send a letter to Hongfeng sect when she grows up. Then, Shiwu continued his journey to the land of Jing. Xiao Lin asked the Shang emperor to give him permission to replace the war leader, as many people in the Shang residence had moved to Jing. Xiao Lin is confident that she can reclaim Shang's prosperity, but she asks the king to grant her wish. He wants Bing Chang to be spared his life. She continues to be bullied by the people of Shang country for betraying her people. The ritual master also joins the battlefield. He is forced to do so because he has the power of holy magic from the Rayless Mountain. Meanwhile, in Jing country, Tantai Jin again strategized to win the war. He asked Pian Ran to find a new demon. Her pet tiger was very lazy, so there was no way it would be useful. She said there were no more demons in her country as she had captured them all. He asked her to look in the Mohe River because there were many sea demons there. Pian Ran found a huge demon still sleeping for tens of thousands of years at the bottom of the sea. Tantai Jin told her to immediately go to the Mohe River with the witches. Shiwu has entered the land of Jing. She visited a tavern there. She heard people talking about the destruction of Shang. She tried to inquire about the location of Jing's headquarters, then she immediately headed to Mohe. Meanwhile, Peng Yiji and Xiao Lin are regrouping at their hideout in Mohe. They suspected something strange because Jing's troops did not attack, even though Sheng's troops were already there. Peng Yiji tried to find information. Shiwu managed to meet Qing Yi at Mohe headquarters. He felt very embarrassed to meet with the Ye family because he had betrayed. Shiwu tries to understand him and thinks he must have his own reasons. She asked if Tantai Jin used dark magic in the fight. He said that currently Tantai Jin has recruited witches and demons. He's currently ordering Pianran and the witches to perform a ceremony to awaken the great demon in Mo River. Shiwu feels that she has a big problem to face because it will be difficult for her to conquer Tantai Jin's heart in this situation. The ritual began the next morning when the sun had risen. Pianran used his power to split the river and the witches made a formation. As they entered the riverbed, Pianran found no magic power in the water dragon. She only saw a very strong aura of hatred in the demon. He thought it was a good opportunity because the demon's soul would be very easy to enter and make the dragon demon very powerful. Peng Yiji found out that Tantai Jin was going to wake up the dragon at the Mohe River, so he and Xiao Lin went straight there. Bingcheng was curious because her husband left without bringing any troops, and she followed him secretly. Shiwu arrived at the right time, and Tantai Jin was shocked by his arrival. He ordered his followers to directly attack Shiwu, but luckily Peng Yiji immediately came to his aid. Not expecting Xiao Lin and Peng Yiji to be there, Tantai Jin ordered his troops to kill the three, but she changes her mind and invites them to talk. She expresses her frustration with Xiao Lin and apologizes for ruining her wedding. He did that to her because all the people he wanted to avenge were there. As he told her all his past grudges, the dragon demon began to awaken. Peng Yiji said the demon slept for tens of thousands of years because it experienced the Pana life in the dream world. The dragon goes to the memory of its past and will return to feel sadness and joy repeatedly and endlessly. The dragon demon has two eyes between becoming a demon god or a holy god because it was forcibly awakened. So now is the dragon's determination. Shiwu feels that the demon has something to do with Tantai Jin and thinks it is the beginning of hell 500 years later in the human realm. She asks how to stop him from becoming a demon. Peng Yiji says she can only wake him up by entering his dreams. Without thinking, she jumps into the dragon's demon eyes, and Tantai Jin follows her. Peng Yiji said that if anyone tried to enter the dragon demon's dreamland, they would lose their memories, and their destiny could not be determined. They would live as sea animals. Xiao Lin goes to catch up, and as the dragon moves towards its bed again, the ocean is shaken, and the energy makes people around it fall. Bingcheng accidentally fell into the ocean, and she entered the dragon's body. In the dream, there was no life and death. The entity in the dream asked them to go through life, death, love, and hate. The four of them entered Pana's life in the dream and had their own roles to play. Shiwu became the princess of the Mohe clam tribe, and together with Sang Ju, she was very happy to come out of her palace. The situation there was in a war between the demon god's army and the holy god. She saw a god that made her very fascinated. She admired the god Mingye. He was sent by the god of war to save the eastern continent.